Welcome into the Sharp Sports YouTube podcast. My name is Andrew Sharp. We'll be talking everything Denver sports and beyond. Please like and subscribe if you are a sports fan like me. Let's do this. Welcome into the Sharp Sports YouTube podcast. My name is Andrew Sharp. Follow me on Sharp Sports 82 on X as well as YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. The Denver Broncos are currently on their bye week. Did not play a game last Sunday, but that means gives us a little extra chance to talk about some things outside of the immediate reaction to a game. And I wanted to go back and look at where I predicted the Broncos would be at this point in the season. Was I right? Was I wrong? We'll be doing some of that later on in the pod as well. So it's pretty crazy. I did okay. I have 9 of the 13 games the Broncos have played so far. I had predicted correctly. So I actually had them at 8-5 at this point, and their actual record is 8-5. Now, the way that they have gone about doing that was a little different. Their path and the games that they won and lost were a little different. We'll talk about a few of those, but overall, I think I have a pretty good sense of where this team's at, even at the beginning of the year. And I certainly didn't think they were going to go 0-2 again to start the year, which was unfortunate. They lost at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are looking a lot more formidable than I thought they were going to be in the 2024 season. That loss doesn't look so bad now. The win at the Buccaneers, which was completely unexpected, looks real good. And beating the Jets in a rainstorm of a game doesn't look very good, as the Jets have had a miserable season. But in the context of the Broncos' AFC positioning, big win. So there's been some ones that back and forth. The ones I got wrong. Let's talk about that for a second, actually. Yeah, so I thought they were going to beat Pittsburgh at home. They did not. I thought they were going to actually lose at Tampa and lose at the Jets. They won both those games. And the other one that I really thought that they could win was I thought they could beat the Los Angeles Chargers at home, a game they lost. But the Broncos have done very well against the NFC South, which is something I was really banking on them with their head coach Sean Payton to take care of business and get some extra wins. They don't necessarily help them in tiebreakers because they are non-AFC wins, they're NFC wins, but wins overall still help your 2024 playoff push. So Broncos are about where I thought they'd be, which is good. And I would say their best win, arguably I would say it's probably either at Tampa Bay, just because I respect what Tampa has been, and that's not an easy place to play. I would also say actually their wild home win against the red-hot Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns is one of their better efforts, because the defense did not have a good day and they still won the game. And I'd say worst loss. I would say that probably the loss that I thought they really could have pulled something out and would have changed things for them was getting the field goal block at Kansas City. The Broncos had a chance to win a game in an environment they have not won at in a long time. Chiefs have already clinched the AFC West, and that would have just made it more difficult for the Chiefs at this point. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're pulling games out. Even when they shouldn't win, they win. And the Chiefs have already locked up the AFC West for the 2024 season. So Broncos are playing for second place or even third for a wild card. And that's okay. And I think there's a good chance, as I predicted, the Chiefs will not need their season finale against the Broncos here in Denver. And hopefully the Denver Broncos can go ahead and seal their playoff fate in that game. There are paths for the Broncos if they win a few more AFC games coming up hosting the Indianapolis Colts and going to the Chargers and at the Cincinnati Bengals. But that game actually may not matter much in terms of playoff chances or seeding, but we're going to see how it all plays out. And the one other thing I wanted to get to was basically Broncos control their own destiny. They really do. The Colts are coming in this week. The Colts are not that great a team. They have gone back to Anthony Richardson, who's wildly talented, but much like Jameis Winston, offers plenty of opportunity for this Broncos defense to take advantage of his mistakes. I really think the Broncos can take care of business at home against the Colts, even if they're average offensively. I don't predict the Colts to be able to move the ball very much on the Broncos. Broncos are also coming off a bye week. And let's call it what it is. Poor performance against the Cleveland Browns defensively. In that game, I would really be surprised if the Broncos defense doesn't go back, watch some film, change some assignments, and can come out Sunday and really hand it to the Indianapolis Colts and put themselves in the driver's seat for the remainder of the 2024 playoff push. When looking at the AFC West as a whole, I had very little doubt that the Kansas City Chiefs would win the AFC West in 2024. The manner in which they are playing and have gone about it is a little strange, but the end results are about what I figured. I did not think that they would necessarily wrap it up by week 12, which is essentially what they did, but they did win the division again. And they're still the team to beat. They have not been nearly as dominant this season for a variety of reasons, but they're still doing real good. So 12-1, and they're basically in the driver's seat looking at the NFL playoff seeding predictions at 12-1. Buffalo is number 2 in the conference at 10-3, but the Chiefs have a couple game lead. They're 5-0 in the division. They're 7-1 in conference in the AFC, and they have not lost at home this year. Broncos tried to inflict one loss upon them a couple weeks back, but were unable to do so. So really, Kansas City isn't playing for the AFC West title. They're playing for glory and history in trying to become the first NFL team to three-peat. And until somebody knocks them off, there's no reason why they can't at least make it to the conference championship game and possibly the Super Bowl. So Chiefs are still the absolute class of this division, and the Broncos, Chargers are battling for second place. And unfortunately, I think that's where the Broncos and Chargers are going to remain for a little while. But the Broncos and Chargers definitely have hope because they have 2 young quarterbacks, Bo Nix and Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, whose name I was trying to forget for 1 second. So there's potential there. So let's talk a little bit about the Chargers. Chargers are 8-5 with the Broncos. Same record. But if the playoffs started today, Chargers would be the 6th seed, where they win the tiebreaker based on their head-to-head win over the Broncos. They are the same as the Broncos. They are 2-2 in the division. They're 5-4 in the conference, so they've won one more conference game. But Chargers and Broncos are very even. It'll be very interesting. The game that they are going to play later in the season, with Bronco approval, got moved to a Thursday primetime game. So the Broncos will play 2 Thursday night games this year, which I'd have to go back and look and recall when the last time they did 2 in one season. That is not very common. And I understand a bit of why they did it. There's some scheduling that allows them to prepare a little differently. So that was a Sean Payton decision, but that certainly would be interesting. Chargers are really all about the coach and the quarterback combo. They don't have many skill position guys. Their defense is amazing. Harbaugh knows how to coach defense. Same players as last year. under Brandon Staley, and they were a defensive disaster. And this year, they're quite good. If the LA Chargers go out and spend some money in free agency, draft a couple of weapons, Broncos and Chargers, Broncos and Chiefs, Chargers and Chiefs, all three could be having some very interesting divisional battles at this time next year. But for now, KC is still the class. They just are. And the Broncos are not out of it. They're very much in the play. Very much in play. Which leaves us to the Raiders. So, I grew up with a lot of Raiders fans. Currently work with one. The Raiders are the Raiders. They have one playoff appearance since they lost the Super Bowl in January 2003 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're the Raiders. They're not well owned. They're not well run. They don't have a good coach. They have some good players, actually. They had Devontae Adams before he went on to New York. They have Max Crosby. They have some pieces. But the Raiders also thought that Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell were answers at quarterback. Similar to what the Broncos were doing at quarterback, using every journeyman quarterback that was available to them. It's not a solution. I'm really happy that the Raiders did not draft Bo Nix, as they well could have. They were one pick above the Broncos, but they chose to choose Brock Bowers in that draft. Brock Bowers is an amazing player, but he doesn't win you games. And unfortunately for the Raiders, they started out okay, but they are currently at 2-11. They are, let me double check this. Yes, they are 1-4 at home. They have not won an AFC divisional game this year. In the conference, they are 2-8, and they have lost 9 straight games. It's actually hard. It's hard in the NFL to lose 9 straight games. That's currently the longest streak in the NFL. Most people would say it's the Giants. Giants have lost 8 straight. Raiders have lost 9 straight and are well on their way to a top 3 draft pick, possibly the number 1 pick, possibly Shedeur Sanders, and some other possibilities. But the Raiders are not a contender in the AFC West this year, as I kind of predicted that I did not think they would be quite this bad. I did not think they would be picking in the top 3, but I definitely did not think the Raiders were a viable contender for the AFC West. So, all in all, it's still Kansas City's world. The Broncos and the Chargers, not far behind. And believe me, I don't think the Chiefs really want to play another round with either of these teams in the playoffs. They would much rather play a different divisional opponent if they get the bye in the second round. So we'll see. But Broncos are coming. Broncos are coming. I want to talk a little bit about where I was right this season on a few short things. Bo Nix and his continued development. Bo Nix is the future of the Broncos. He's the future of their quarterback. He's doing very well in Rookie of the Year odds. His numbers are solid. He's clearly a leader. He has 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's not afraid to throw the ball downfield. He's completing the ball at a 63.8% completion percentage this year. And quite frankly, the kid's he's got dog in him. And I should have talked about it a little earlier, but there was some of the viral clips of his doing the googly-eyed eyes of intensity at various points in the sideline. I love it. I love it. He's fired up. He cares. Can't ask for much more than that. Bo Nix, the future. Where I was right again. Broncos went 4-0 against the NFC South. I kept talking about it. I'm going to keep talking about it. There's a huge advantage with the scheduling break this year. The Broncos are not the Chiefs. They need some help along the way. They need scheduling advantages. And this year they got one because they got to play the division that their head coach worked in the entirety of his head coaching career previous to the Broncos. And the Broncos took advantage of that. Also got a little lucky that The Carolina Panthers are not a good football team. They're playing better now, but they weren't very good when the Broncos played. So they took advantage of some weaknesses in that division. And thirdly, where I was right, Broncos no-name defense. A lot of their players are not as well known, but that does not mean that they are not talented and capable. I was very happy that Nick Bonito, after the Broncos win against the Cleveland Browns, was interviewed live on SportsCenter by Scott Van Pelt. Great for the Broncos. Nick Bonito really coming into his own. He's right up there in terms of sack leaders. He's right there. He doesn't have far to go. We're going to talk about it a little later, but Broncos have a star pass rusher amongst a bunch of other good defensive players that people, casual fans don't know as well. And I'm happy to see it. And now on to where Andrew Sharp, your host, was dead wrong. I really thought the Alex Singleton injury would really hurt this team. Alex Singleton is a middle linebacker who's played a lot for the Broncos over the last few years. Instead, his replacement, Jonah Ellis, has been great. Other guys have stepped up. You really can't tell the defense is playing better now than it was last year or the year before. And there's a very interesting, I have an interesting sort of hypothesis about this, which is that when you play team defense in the NFL, unless you have a truly dominant player who's rushing the passer, leading tackling can be a little deceiving because that usually means that other guys in the team are not making plays. You're not playing as a unit, which is super important for defense. Alex Singleton in 2023, a season ago, was third in tackles in the entire league. Third. Only behind Zaire Franklin of Indianapolis, who's still playing good, and Bobby Wagner in his final season with the Seattle Seahawks. Alex Singleton was third tackler in the league, but it wasn't always good because that meant that he was tackling guys as they're running and making plays, tackling guys after they've already beaten the Broncos defensive line while running the ball, tackling guys when he really should have been. He's not the best cover guy. He's a tackler, but he's not the best cover linebacker the Broncos have either. So the loss of Alex Singleton, I can't say that they'll be better without him, but they haven't missed him. And the other guy I thought they really missed, just for his leadership presence and being able to sort of coach along the young guys and give a young quarterback a good target, would be Tim Patrick, who was let go mostly for a salary dump from the Broncos and a chance to play some of the younger guys, Devon Baylor, Troy Franklin. Franklin's been okay. Tim Patrick, I wish nothing but the best for him. He is going to have a chance to play for the Detroit Lions in the playoffs, but he hasn't really done anything. He's played 12 games for the Lions this year. He has 27 catches for 349 yards. The vast majority of that came in the last game, where he was good against the Green Bay Packers. Caught a couple of touchdowns. By the way, his first touchdowns of the entire season. So Tim Patrick, not a factor with the Lions. Not that they need him, but he really hasn't done much of anything this season. And I would say the third surprise, Broncos running game. I really felt that they really need to have a running game in order for their young quarterback to succeed this year. But the running game has been at best. Broncos are not going to have a 1,000-yard rusher, not even close. And currently, I'm looking right now, they rank 19th in rushing attempts, 20th in yards, 23rd in touchdowns, and 19th in yards per average rush. So they're really not running the ball at all. Bo Nix has overcome that. Quick screen game, being able to get the ball out quickly, but where I was dead wrong, thought the Broncos really were going to be able to run the ball with Sean Payton's system and be able to have a well-balanced attack. The Broncos have not been that balanced all year. Hasn't hurt them yet. I think it could hurt them if they were to make the playoffs and try to win a playoff game. I think you do need to have a balanced attack at that point. But I was dead wrong about the Broncos' rushing attack for the 2024 NFL season. And I know this is the NFL in 2024 routines. We talk a lot about the quarterback and the offense, but I want to give the Denver Broncos defense some attention in the last segment of this podcast, because the Broncos defense has been, quite frankly, a bit of a revelation, given this was a unit that gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins a year and a half ago. And the first number I really want to look at is Nick Bonito, who's leading the Broncos right now with 11 sacks. Nick Bonito is currently third in the entire league in sacks. Troy Hendrickson of Cincinnati has 12.5. Myles Garrett, an outstanding player, has won Defensive Player of the Year before, has 11. Nick Bonito is third in the league in sacks. It's incredible. Nick Bonito also ranks very well in tackles for loss. He's currently ninth. And if you take all of the Broncos together, Nick Bonito has 11 sacks. Jonathan Gruber has 8. Zach Allen has 5. Zach Allen is also a defensive tackle, so I don't expect his sack numbers to be as good. But if the Broncos could get Jonathan Gruber to 10 sacks, that would be the first time in quite a while that the Broncos have had 2 defensive players reach double digits in sacks, which would be amazing. One other number I wanted to look at for the Broncos with that is just how good their defense has been, quite frankly, overall. Because this unit is playing exceptional football. Here's some other crazy, amazing numbers in this 2024 season for the Denver Broncos. Broncos are one of only 2 teams that have 2 top 15 sack guys. Denver Broncos, Pittsburgh Steelers. Nick Bonito with 11, and Jonathan Cooper with 8. Pittsburgh, TJ Watt, 9.5, and Cameron Hayward with 8. Another crazy number for you. Broncos are the only team besides the Minnesota Vikings that have 2 top 15 players in tackles for loss. Nick Bonito and defensive tackle Zach Allen. Nick Bonito tackles for loss is 13. Zach Allen's is 12. Minnesota has 2 of these guys in Andrew Van Ginkel, who's at 15 tackles for loss, and right behind him, Jonathan Greenwood, who has 14 tackles for loss. Crazy number. And the third part of it, which also tells a bit of the story of the AFC West, which is what I'm spending a lot of time on today. I was kind of blown away when I saw this, but it's really crazy. Defensive metrics are always, you can skew the numbers a little bit here and there, but really when it comes down to, you're trying to stop the other team from scoring. So the holy grail of defense is points allowed. Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West, number 1, 207 points allowed. Denver Broncos, 234. And by the way, the Detroit Lions and the Denver Broncos had the exact same points allowed for the year. And the Lions are doing it with a crazy lead. They've been hurt lately. Kansas City Chiefs, number 7. So 3 of the top 7 points allowed defenses are residing in the AFC West. That is insane. That's insane. So it's a really hard division. It's a very competitive division. And quite frankly, if you can do well in the AFC West in 2024, you can play against the rest of the NFL as a whole. Once again, my name is Andrew Sharp, Sharp Sports 82 YouTube podcast. Follow me here on YouTube or on X. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for tuning in to the Broncos bye-week podcast. I don't see any reason why they can't take care of business at home against the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday and be well on their way to securing a playoff berth in 2024. But this is the NFL. Broncos don't take anything for granted. And I look forward to discussing the game with you next week right here on this platform. Thanks for tuning in.